You are standing in your friend's kitchen, gray stonework tops, a boiling water tap, bifold doors opening onto a garden that looks like it belongs in a magazine. Outside, on the drive, there is a brand new Land Rover Defender, black, immaculate, still smells of the showroom. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet, uncomfortable thought arrives. How? Not wow, not nice, how? This is not a story about jealousy. This is a story about arithmetic that does not add up. About the gap between what you see on a driveway in the home counties and what the bank statements behind that front door actually say. Because here is the harsh truth nobody wants to say out loud. A staggering amount of visible wealth in Britain right now is not wealth at all. It is debt dressed up and driven to the school run. According to recent Bank of England data, consumer credit in the UK, credit cards, car finance, personal loans, now sits above £240 billion. Car finance alone accounts for over £40 billion of borrowing, with roughly 9 in 10 new cars on British roads bought not outright, but on some form of finance agreement. That Defender on the drive, there is a strong chance it does not belong to your friend at all. It belongs to a finance company, and your friend is simply renting the illusion of owning it, one direct debit at a time. We're told Britain is a wealthy country, and yet underneath the glass extensions and the walk-in wardrobes, something colder is happening. The question isn't whether your friend has done something wrong. The question is, what does rich actually mean anymore, when so much of it can be built on nothing but credit and confidence? Before we go further, we have to name the thing that lives underneath all of this: comparison. Not envy in the ugly, obvious sense, but the quiet psychological tax paid by anyone scrolling a feed built entirely from other people's highlight reels. It is 9 p.m. and you are lying in bed with your phone 6 inches from your face. An old school friend posts from a villa in Pudia. Someone from your old office posts a kitchen renovation with a marble island the size of a small car. A cousin posts unboxing a new iPhone, a new watch, a new pair of trainers, all in the same week. You do the math in your head without meaning to. That's a mortgage. That's 2 mortgages. How? This is comparison mode. In this mode, every purchase you see gets silently priced against your own life, and your own life quietly loses. There is no context, no visibility into the 0% finance deal, the maxed out credit card, the buy now, pay later app, the parents who topped up the deposit, just the glossy surface, rendered in perfect lighting. This is what modern British status anxiety actually feels like from the inside. Not a headline, a scroll, every single night. And then one ordinary Tuesday, you learn the truth about somebody specific. Not a stranger, someone you know. The truth slips out over a coffee, or through a mutual friend, or in a conversation that goes slightly too far. The Defender is on a 4-year PCP deal at £649 a month. The kitchen was put on a 0% credit card that recently rolled onto 24.9% interest because the promotional period quietly ended 8 months ago. The Puglia trip was booked on a Pay-in-3 app that isn't actually interest-free once you read the small print on a missed payment. It doesn't feel like relief, it feels like vertigo. Because if that lifestyle, the one that made you lie awake doing mental arithmetic, is actually built on borrowed money and rolling interest, then what exactly were you comparing yourself to? Consider what this actually looks like in the numbers. According to recent Finder and FCA research, the average UK adult carries around £2,000 in problem or high-interest consumer debt outside of their mortgage. Nearly 1 in 3 UK adults with a credit card is only making the minimum payment. And separately, car finance complaints to the Financial Ombudsman have surged into the tens of thousands, driven largely by undisclosed commission arrangements that in many cases quietly inflated what ordinary buyers were charged for their monthly payments. This is not a story about a handful of reckless people. This is a structural feature of how modern consumption is sold to Britain. Nothing has to be paid for today. Everything can simply be financed into a smaller, more digestible monthly number. And that monthly number is precisely small enough to feel affordable and precisely persistent enough to follow you for years. There's a term economists sometimes use for this: lifestyle inflation without income inflation. Spending rises to match what's visible around you, not what's actually sitting in your account. And once you're inside that pattern, escaping it is far harder than entering it, because every payment is small, and every payment is normal, and every neighbor, every colleague, every person in your feed appears to be doing exactly the same thing. Now contrast that with what actual quiet wealth looks like in Britain. It rarely looks like anything at all. It looks like a 10-year-old Honda on the drive, paid off in full. It looks like a kitchen that hasn't been renovated since 2014, with a family that has £30,000 sitting in a stocks and shares ISA instead. It looks like a couple who still holiday in Cornwall, not Puglia, because they'd rather retire at 58 than impress somebody at a barbecue. There is a well-known finding, first popularized by American researchers studying self-made millionaires and echoed consistently in British financial behavior studies. The people who accumulate the most wealth are disproportionately the people whose lifestyle looks the least wealthy. They drive ordinary cars. They live in the same house for decades. They are, in the language of the research, prodigious accumulators, precisely because nobody is watching them and they have stopped needing anybody to. This is the pivot. Not poverty, not deprivation, the quiet, unglamorous discipline of directing money toward a number nobody else can see, instead of a surface everybody else can. Now here's where it gets genuinely useful. If the Defender is £649 for 4 years, that's over £31,000 spent, and at the end of it, your friend owns nothing. No car, just the option to hand it back or pay a lump sum to keep it. Now imagine that same £649 invested monthly instead into a global index fund inside a stocks and shares ISA at a realistic long-run average return of around 7% after inflation. After 4 years, that's not £31,000 spent, that's closer to £36,000 saved and growing, and it hasn't even started compounding properly yet. Run it further. Keep that same monthly amount going for 20 years instead of 4, and you're no longer looking at tens of thousands. You're looking at well over £300,000. That's the actual, unglamorous, invisible price of the visible car. Not £31,000, potentially hundreds of thousands of pounds of future wealth quietly not built because the money went somewhere you could see instead of somewhere that would compound. This is not a lecture about never buying nice things. This is about understanding what you're actually looking at when you feel that familiar, uncomfortable pang of comparison. You are very rarely looking at wealth. You are looking at a monthly payment, a number small enough to approve, wrapped around a much larger number nobody discloses. So the next time you're standing in somebody's kitchen, staring at the boiling water tap and the Defender through the window, and that quiet, cold thought arrives again, how? Try asking a different question instead. Not how do they afford this, but what would I have in 10 years if I stopped trying to look like this and started quietly building the thing nobody can see? Because the truly wealthy person in that story is very rarely the one with the newest car on the drive. It is very often the person 2 doors down, in the older house, with the paid-off Honda, who nobody suspects of anything at all. The fake rich trap is not a trap other people fall into. It's a trap built specifically to catch anyone still measuring their life by what's visible on somebody else's drive. If you learned something, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.